Are you starting from square one and aiming to become a cloud DevOps engineer, and you're not sure which certifications you need to take or what topics you need to master? Don't worry, I've got you covered. In this video, we'll break down the exact path you need to go from zero experience to an AWS Cloud DevOps engineer, including the certifications you need to consider and key topics you need to learn. My name is Faith, and I've been a Cloud DevOps engineer for the past 7 years. I've also helped aspiring DevOps engineers to get their footing in the cloud. The strategies I'm about to share with you are the same steps I and many others have taken to kickstart thriving cloud careers. While there is no one-size-fits-all formula, I am confident that following these steps diligently will deliver results. Let's jump right in. To become a cloud DevOps engineer, you need to master DevOps concepts and become an expert at least one cloud provider. Let's start with the DevOps part. What is DevOps? DevOps is all about bridging the gap between software development, which is the dev, and IT operations, which is the ops. The aim is to achieve faster, more reliable software releases with strong emphasis on collaboration and automation. The cloud, on the other end, is renting someone else's computer. Okay, on a more serious note, cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with a pay-as-you-go pricing model. So instead of buying, owning, and maintaining physical data centers and servers, you can access services such as computing power, storage, and databases on a pay-as-you-go basis from a cloud provider like AWS. To cut the long story short, start with AWS. You'll eventually find it easier to pick up GCP and Azure or other cloud providers. AWS is the leading cloud provider with a massive market share. Learning DevOps on AWS means you have access to plenty of job opportunities and a rich ecosystem of tools. Since the AWS community is the biggest, you'll find it easy to answer questions whenever you get stuck with a problem. Certifications will play a major role in your cloud journey. Are certifications the must? No. I personally know very skilled, uncertified cloud engineers. Hands-on practice and experience are always more valuable than amassing tons of certification. Certifications provide structured knowledge, help maintain focus, and validate your skills to employers. So what's even better than an experienced cloud DevOps engineer? A certified, experienced cloud DevOps engineer. Now that we've established a good base, where do you start from? In the first 2 months, prepare and pass the AWS Cloud Practitioner. If you're brand new to AWS, then you should start here. This certification covers the basic of AWS services, pricing models, security, and the general cloud concepts you need as a foundation. AWS provides free training for the Cloud Practitioner. I'll add a link to the material you need in the description. Depending on your schedule, 2 months should be enough to knock out this exam. After you get the AWS Cloud Practitioner, it's time to get serious. You should immediately start preparing for the AWS Solutions Architect Associate for the next 2 months. And in my opinion, the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate should be the most difficult certification in your AWS career. This is because you have the least experience and a massive amount of information to ingest at this stage. You need to use your AWS free tier account while studying for this certification and practice. It's time to also start looking into core DevOps and Linux concepts at this stage. Concepts like Linux and the command line, even a basic understanding would help you. Most DevOps stacks would involve you writing a script or running commands on the Linux server. You should also look into version control with Git. You store lots of code and configurations in Git repositories. You can focus on GitHub. Try to learn the Git fundamentals like branching, merging, and pull requests. Networking and security fundamentals. Start with understanding the OSI model, the protocols on each level, and how data moves across the layers. Scripting and automation. You need to learn at least one scripting language to automate repetitive tasks. Automation is central to DevOps. You can focus on Python and shell scripting at this stage. Containers and orchestration. Docker is huge in DevOps, so try to understand how Docker containers work. CI/CD pipeline basics are also important. Start with AWS code pipeline, code build, code deploy, but you want to end up learning GitHub Actions. Focus on understanding the end-to-end flow, commit code, build, test it, and deploy it. Infrastructure as code is also very important. IAC helps to define and provision AWS resources in a repeatable way. CloudFormation is a good first IAC to learn, especially since it's AWS specific and it's quite easy to grasp, honestly. Although you want to learn Terraform as soon as possible, I understand this is a lot and you need to create a schedule to start each of these topics one after the other. Your goal here is not to finish learning Linux or finish learning Python. It's impossible to finish learning some of these concepts. You want to have an idea or know enough to understand what these tools are used for and have at least one project in each of these tools. The good news for you is most of these tools can be covered in one project. For example, containerize a custom Hello World web page served by Nginx, provision AWS resources like EC2 instances and VPCs with Terraform, configure a CI/CD pipeline to build, test, and push the container image to a registry. Then automatically deploy the updated image to your EC2 instance on successful builds. You'll have to stop taking AWS certifications at this stage and keep practicing the topics and tools I've already mentioned. So this is because you don't want to be overly certified before you land your first job. Trust me, having 5 certifications with no cloud experience would do more harm than good. As you learn and build projects, start applying to internships and junior roles that will require no experience. It will be hard and long, but the longer it takes, the more confident you become. Immediately you get your first job, focus on learning the tools and technologies you use at work. I don't know, but you probably don't want to get laid off. Make sure you set aside time to continue your cloud learning because it's not time to relax yet. You have 2 more certifications to take in your first year. The next certification on the roadmap is the AWS SysOps Administrator Associate. This is more ops focused and covers how to deploy, manage, and operate AWS workloads. After you pass the SysOps Administrator, you can now take the Developer Associate. This one focuses more on showcasing an engineering skill and knowledge in developing, optimizing, packaging, and technically deploying applications using CI/CD workflows, and then identifying and resolving these application issues. You can get all this done in just 1 year. Take the second year to further strengthen your weak areas. I remember for me, I went deeper with Linux, networking, Python, shell scripting. Second year is also time for you to start your Kubernetes journey. A Kubernetes pro tip: learn and become good at Docker and maybe ECS before touching Kubernetes. If you have a strong background of containers and a different orchestrator, it makes it easier to learn Kubernetes. The AWS special certifications are a very good side quest in your second year. 3 years after your AWS Associate certifications, it's finally time for you to go pro. The AWS professional certifications are intended for folks with 2 or more years of experience architecting and provisioning, even operating and managing AWS environments. Since the validity of AWS certifications is 3 years, all your associate certifications are about to expire at this point. Plus, you now have over 3 years of cloud experience. Assuming you're really dedicated and you gained enough experience building on AWS in those 3 years, you should now be almost ready for your next certification, the AWS Solutions Architect Professional. This is not an easy one, but it should be easier for you since you've been spending a considerable amount of time in the AWS ecosystem. Passing the certification will also renew all your AWS Associate certifications. Finally, the AWS DevOps Professional Certification. At this stage, you'll be familiar with more than 90% of the AWS services. Passing the AWS DevOps Pro will renew both your AWS Developer Associate and your SysOps Administrator certifications. In summary, you should spend month 1 and 2 passing the AWS Cloud Practitioner, month 3 to 7 to pass the AWS Solutions Architect Associate, and to cover topics like Linux and the command line, version control with Git, networking and security fundamentals, scripting and automation, containers and orchestration, CI/CD pipeline basics, and infrastructure as code. Make sure you're building lots of projects from this stage. Use the 8 to the 12 months to add the developer and the SysOps Associate. And then use the next year to dive into Kubernetes, take a side quest with the AWS Specialty Certification, if you have the bandwidth, of course. In the third year, then you go for the Solutions Architect Professional and then DevOps Engineer Professional. Of course, it renews all your Associate certifications also. Also remember, everyone learns at a different pace and the real-world experience can actually accelerate or even change your path. Please focus on understanding the concepts, not just passing the exams. And I'll leave you with the following advice. Hands-on practice beats theory. Hands-on projects or labs will solidify your knowledge faster than just reading or watching those videos. Also, stay curious. New tools and best practices will pop up all the time. And actually, continuous learning is a very big part of the DevOps mindset. So never stop learning. Network and showcase yourself. Share your projects on GitHub. Make LinkedIn posts about your project and join AWS communities. You can attract recruiters with any of your public posts and your projects. Lastly, Please embrace the learning curve. DevOps is very broad and AWS has tons of services. Feeling overwhelmed is normal at the start, but keep at it. Take breaks if you must, but try to always return to the learning path. Best of luck on your cloud journey.